Hey, what's up everyone and welcome to the Remake Review, the mini-series where I share my thoughts and feelings about 3 chapters at a time from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. This review will contain spoilers all the way throughout for the whole game and lore, so if you are yet to finish the game or it's a 1997 original, please click off the video and save it for when you've finished either or. With that being said, let's mosey. Well, this is it, the final episode of the Remake Review. And it has been a journey to say the least. It was an experimental formula for me to take, other than honest reviews and minute reviews. To do something like this was fresh. It was a change of pace, and it allowed me to express my feelings towards the game a lot more, I think. And it was a success. I really do think the Remake Review was a success, and it wouldn't be possible without you guys. So thank you so much for tuning into the Remake Review. It means a lot to me, and I couldn't be more grateful. And I do want to do more content like this in the future. But before I blabber on about this, I'm going to get started with the content of today's episode. So this isn't going to be a traditional episode as I have no more chapters to talk about. I've done all 18. So what we're going to be doing this time is we're going to be discussing the pros and the cons of the game rather than each individual chapter. And towards the end I'm going to give you my list of my ranking of the chapters. Rather than talking about them and giving pros and cons of each individually, I'm going to give that all in different segments, pros, then cons, and then my overall ranking with no explanation, as it should be abundantly clear why I've put them in that order by the end, which is my aim anyways. So yeah, hope you enjoy. So first up we have the pros of the game. In my opinion, where the game excels the best is its characters, hands down. I don't think I've ever played a game with characters as charming and characters I have never had this enjoyment out of. Every single party member that joins you, or just side character or villain, they all feel super realized in this world and none of them fall flat. Every single character in this game is portrayed extremely well, and it's probably the best portrayals of these characters ever. And I mean that, especially characters such as Barrett and Red 13, because you can see they're starting to build a little bit of a bromance towards the end, like people have memed about in, for example, FF7 Machine Abridged, which is probably one of the best FF7 parodies I've ever watched. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's made by the same people that make Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and that's a fantastic series on its own as well. But yeah, the characters are phenomenal all the way through. They are fucking incredible. I love each and every one of them so much, and I'm glad that they took this direction with the characters. And the next best thing, in my opinion anyways, is the new story. I'm glad that they changed the story and didn't just go with the original, because it wouldn't be so much of a remake rather than a remaster in some sense. Yes, it would still be like, this is more of a reimagining, I understand that, but if they would have just taken the original game beat for beat, it would be a remaster. So I like the direction that they've taken, and they've redefined the remake genre. I quite enjoy it. And while yeah, some of the stuff that's in this game is Kingdom Hearts batshit levels of crazy, fucking Nomura this and that, blah blah blah. You can't really say it's like Kingdom Hearts, because Kingdom Hearts came from Final Fantasy. So if anything, it's more Final Fantasy than it is Kingdom Hearts. But because we're so used to Final Fantasy games at this point being, less Kingdom Heartsy, it's just become a thing to call it a Kingdom Hearts move or blame Nomura for it, which, yeah, a lot of people have been doing, and I can see why they've been doing that, because it's, one of their favourite games of all time. They didn't want it to be butchered, but I enjoy it. I really do enjoy this new story. I think the whispers are a little bit too meta, however, they could have done a little bit more with the whispers rather than just make them the ghosts of the original storyline, trying to prevent this new one from happening, or in anything like that. I think that was a little bit bullshit. It was a very Nomura move, if I'm going to join the bandwagon. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought the new story was pretty fun. It was entertaining. I was able to keep up with it, no problem. So yeah, that's something. And as well, something that I enjoyed was the linear level design. Now this is something a lot of people have been complaining about. They're saying it should have been open world. We wanted an 16 sector Midgar, slums and topside. Well, explain this to me. How the fuck do you expect them to fit all 16 parts, 17 if you count Shinra Tower, 17 parts of Midgar into one game on the PlayStation 4? On the PS5, this might be possible, but PS4, no. They have to keep it like they have, and I am so happy they did it the way they did, because I personally wouldn't want to explore a giant Midgar, because you'd get lost, you'd probably forget what happens in most of the sectors, the game would be way too long, and also there's just not a lot you can do. Like you'll introduce all these new things, but you can't introduce 17 new characters or more per sector to make the one that outstands everyone else. You just can't do that. It's too much shit to keep up with, and it's too much stress on the developers. This game was in development, and it was teased for like 5 years since E3, and people are complaining about it. Be happy, your dream has been realized. And even if it's not in the format you didn't want it in, then who gives a shit? Be grateful you have it. People put their hearts and souls into this game, and I think it turned out brilliantly. The linear level design was a smart choice, and it's not as linear as something like Final Fantasy 13. You can still do shit in this game. It's great. It's a nice hybrid. And also, we need to talk about the combat. The combat is one of the best parts of the game as well. Probably the best combat system I've ever played in a video game. It's phenomenal. It's super fun. It's a nice blend of turn-based and reactionary gameplay, whilst also being real-time, all at the same time. It's a very, very balanced and fair blend. I love it. I think it's really fun, and the developers absolutely nailed it. And of course, you can't talk about the pros of this game without mentioning its soundtrack. This game has the best soundtrack I've ever heard in a video game, period. And I'm not saying that just because I love the originals. I mean it. This soundtrack is pure fucking quality music. It's that much quality. I'll be going to the Orchestral World Tour for this game in London. I'm travelling 4 hours just to see this soundtrack played live because I love it that much. And I'm buying this 8-disc special edition CD. That's like £80 in Great British currency. It's the only I've never made these commitments to a game before. Everything FF7 Remake, I have my eyes on. I want to get it because the game's a triumph, as it's been described. It's an absolute triumph, just like this soundtrack. My favourite track has to be the Airbuster, which is being played right now. It's a song that is just so simple yet so complex in the way that it's formed musically. But it's still, it's complex with all the things that it uses and all the techniques. But it's still simple enough for you to sing along to and bob your head to, dance, whatever. And even when they start doing the chants, you can sing along to it because it doesn't sound like anything you haven't heard before. It's just random, sounds made with your mouth. It's that good. The track is fucking amazing, and the guitar solos are incredible. There isn't a single track in the game soundtrack that I don't like. Every single track is fan-fucking-tastic. They did an amazing job with the soundtrack, and I hope Part 2 soundtrack is just as good, because I was absolutely blown away by this OST. But in terms of other things that are positive, I do like the game's presentation. The presentation of this game is extremely, extremely polished, especially Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is probably some of the most polished gameplay I think I've ever seen and played in a game ever. It's outstanding, the amount of effort put into Chapter 1 of this game, and most of the other chapters as well. There are some chapters that do fall flat on the face as expected, because no game's perfect, but Chapter 1 is definitely up there as one of the best openings to a video game I've ever played. It's so good. The game looks great, it sounds great, it feels great to control. It's all sorts of fantastic, all in one great package, and you're getting your money's worth. The game it's a long game. I don't know why people complain about the 37 hour story runtime. I've been playing the game for over 100 hours and I'm still not finished with it and all the content it has to offer. I'm in love with this game. It's so good. It's easily in my top 3 games of all time. I don't know where I'd put it just yet. I'm still constructing that list. And I'll make that a video soon enough. But for now, yeah, it's fantastic. I love it so much. The game has so many things right. It does so many things right and so little things wrong. But the things that it does wrong, some of them are absolutely insanely stupid decisions, and we're going to talk about them now. So now I'm going to stop wanking the game off every 10 minutes, and I'm going to talk about what's wrong with it. Now, if I'm honest, there's not that much wrong with this game. There's just a few things that fall flat for me. The first and most notable thing is the level design, and you might call me a hypocrite because just 5 minutes ago I said the level design was great and I like the linearity. Yes, I do, but in some levels it could have been executed way better. For example, chapter 6 is personally my least favourite chapter. I hate chapter 6. The level design is boring, it's uninspired, and it's just a big puzzle. The level's one big puzzle and it doesn't feel fun. It's not fun at all. It's just a slugfest. And after that comes chapter 11, which is just tediousness after tediousness, gimmick after gimmick, and it's just meh. And the start of chapter 8, the start of chapter 9. The start of chapter 9, where you go through the underground passageway to get to the opposite end of Wall Market in sector 5, is so frustrating and so boring. I can't stand it. I mean, the bandits were fine enough, but the level design itself, no, big no-no. I hated the level design. But yeah, level design is definitely an issue in some parts of the game. In terms of gameplay, that's one of the only gameplay faults I can think of. Yeah, so the level design is pretty atrocious sometimes. Now, this isn't an issue with the game, rather it's an issue with the PlayStation 4 itself. But that's the textures. Some of the textures in the game can look off. So the skyboxes or some like parts of houses, they can be really, really low resolution sometimes, which kind of does take away from the experience. Now, I'm not someone who just, absolutely, creams his pants over the graphics of a game. The graphics, to me, in a game don't really matter. As long as the game is presented well enough, it's passable for me. Games that people would call ugly, for example, The Wrath of Cortex, a lot of people call that game ugly. I quite like it. I think the graphics are nice, and I appreciate the art style taken. I love this game's art style, and I love everything it does to make this world, photorealistic. But the texture issue is a little bit jarring, especially in something like Chapter 15, where you get a big view of the destroyed Sector 7, and it looks very, very low resolution with some PNG GIFs of fire just burning on top of a 2D sprite map. Like when you look up and you see the other plates of Midgard, they look fine. It's just the background. Sometimes they look really off. But again, that's no fault of the game. I don't think they could have done much to fix that. Another con of the game is pacing. And even I do enjoy the game's pacing. I think it's fine enough. But some places it just feels really weird, to say the least. So the prime example is Chapter 11. The previous chapters, Chapter 9 told us, we met up with Don Corneo. He told us they're going to drop the plate on us. And then Chapter 10, we're slugging through the sewers, which isn't very fun either. Chapter 11, we see, the plate getting attacked in the background. And, it's urgent, but the characters just seem to be taking their sweet time, especially Aerith talking to the fucking ghosts. And the level design doesn't help either, because it's a big maze and everything just keeps moving. Like you need to go into this train. Oh no, too bad. You got to go hit that switch, come back down. Oh, this door's locked. Go around. It's very frustrating. Story-wise, the pacing's fine enough. I quite enjoy the pacing. Some chapters are a lot shorter, and some chapters are a lot longer than they need to be. But that doesn't really bother me too much. As long as the chapter's fine enough on its own, it's fine. And something that does also feel really out of place is some of the dialogue. Now, don't get me wrong, this dialogue is great. I say this is the con section, but I'm still praising the game. But yeah, the dialogue in this game is fantastic. It's some of the best dialogue I've ever seen in the game. But sometimes the dialogue can feel out of place. For example, Chapter 13's beginning, where Barrett is mourning the deaths of Avalanche and Marlene, presumably. He's, kicking off the fuck because he's just lost his daughter and his team. Everyone just watches him. They watch him have this moment. Cloud knowing too right that Marlene is safe because Aerith found her, and he knows where to go and where to find Marlene. But he just stands there and watches Barrett do it. Now, if it was just Avalanche, fair enough, because they're your friends. But doing that to someone over their fucking daughter, you don't do that. Like, if you're your child, you wouldn't want someone to just tell you last minute that they're fine after you're just kicking off the fuck over thinking they're dead. I thought that was really out of place and a really silly decision. They could have not done that. It was really stupid. I think I hated that so much. But that was the only other part. That was the main thing that stood out to me. Sometimes dialogue was just cheesy, really either too cheesy or sometimes a little bit cringy. But other than that, the dialogue was great, and especially when you put it on top of the character interactions, it becomes even better. So, if anything, that's it for the cons. Actually, no. There's only one other con I can think of, and that is the weight of the characters. Because when you're running around the overworld and you need to open a chest or climb a ladder and you're sprinting to it, sometimes you'll just end up waltzing right past it and you'll be running in circles trying to latch onto it until you have to start walking again. And again, I don't mind it. It's realistic control. I get that. But when you're trying to do things in a hurry sometimes, or you just want to, get over and done with a section, it can be a little bit annoying. It wasn't a glaring issue, mind you. It was tolerable, fair enough, yeah. But I don't know. It really got in the way sometimes, and it did take away from the experience, but not too much to the point where it made the sections it happened, awful. It was just a minor thing in the background. And now for the final results. What is my ranking of every single chapter in Final Fantasy VII Remake? This was a lot harder to construct than I would have ever imagined it to be, because even though some chapters I despise with a burning passion, the rest of them rank up quite equally, and to be honest with you, it's really hard to form an honest list when you're ranking chapters that are as quality as these, especially when you love a game this much as well. It's just really difficult to do. But obviously, I've come to the verdict, and I now know my ranking, and it will be displayed on the screen now. So, my favourite is, of course, Chapter 12. Chapter 12 sparked so many emotions into me to the point where I couldn't fucking breathe occasionally. It made me take a break. I think Chapter 12 does something most games can't manage to do, and that is grip the player throughout the entirety of the chapter and make them feel like they are there. They are living this situation because of how well we have, interacted with these characters in the past, and how we've built this relationship with them. It was an extremely impactful chapter, and I hated playing through every minute of it because of the state it was leaving me in. I didn't want to keep moving. I didn't want to carry on. I just felt extremely, upset. I was left in a state of depression after playing that chapter. No, obviously not literally. It's just one of those figurative things that you'll say, like, oh, this is really depressing, things like that. So yeah, it was a harsh chapter to play through. It really was, but I love it for what it's done. And my least favorite is Chapter 6. Chapter 6 can fuck right off. If there's any time I want to replay this game, I use Chapter Select to just skip. I just skip this chapter because it's boring. I can appreciate the design choices, and I can appreciate that it gives us insight onto what, how slum life is. You've got this maintenance underneath, like the plate, and you've got the sun lamps. That's how the slums get the lights and stuff. But we don't see the impact on the slums at all, ever. Anything we do in this chapter, we never see the impact. We only just get from point A to point B when doing some extremely B-Tech Zelda puzzles. That is it. And I hated it. I hated every single moment of playing through Chapter 6. I thought it was so boring. But again, the characters came and saved it. The characters were the only thing from dragging this chapter down to being one of the most boring things I've ever played. And that is definitely a bad thing. But yeah, there's my ranking. It was very difficult to construct. Very, very difficult to construct. But yes, that is it for the remake review. It's been a good few weeks. I think I've been working on this project for about a month now, and it's been incredible. I've enjoyed every single moment of it, whether that be playing through the game a fourth time to capture the footage, or drawing a unique art for every single video. And that was probably my favourite part of making the remake review, doing art, because art is my favourite thing to do. I fucking love doing drawings, and now that I get to use my graphics tablet a lot more, like I've been using it to create my YouTube icon, which is what you saw at the start of this video when I said 3 chapters at a time. That is my YouTube icon. That is supposed to be me portrayed as a Dragon Ball character with the exaggerated features and, Final Fantasy elements to it, because I love Final Fantasy, of course. It's one of those things. I enjoyed creating the art for the thumbnails. My favourite art that I made was Sephiroth. Sephiroth from Chapter 6, 100%. That is my favourite drawing I've ever done. I thought the outcome was incredible. And it took me 13 hours as well, so yeah, I might be a bit biased. And unfortunately, my least favourite is Zack, which is the feature for this episode. I don't know. I don't think I did Zack any justice. I really fucked up the Buster Sword as well. But yeah, I don't know. I can't decide between Zack and Barret. I'd probably have to say Zack though, because I just didn't do him much justice in my opinion. Because he's my favourite character of all time. I love Zack to death. Which, to bring up now, I know I should have brought this up in the cons section, but I don't want to go back and re-record those lines. Zack. They fucked Zack up in this game. I hate what they've done with him. I hate his voice, I hate his appearance, and I hate his character. He doesn't sound like someone who's been through all this shit, lost his mentor, got trapped in a Shinra basement for 5 years, lost his girlfriend, because he got trapped. It doesn't sound like he's been through anything. Like, the new guy who voices him does no justice compared to what Rick Gomez did, and I hate it. But yeah, I ranted enough about Zack in the previous video. But yeah, the remake review has been an absolute journey for me. It's been something new, something fresh, and it was inspired by Totally Not Mark's Dragon Ball Super series, the Super review. I recommend you guys go check that out. I thought it was a brilliant series. and I would love to do things like this in the future. Now here's something. I have promised someone that I'm going to make an honest reviews episode on GTA San Andreas, and I will do that because I'm now currently playing through the game. But I'm now debating whether or not I should do this San Andreas review as an honest reviews, or in the same format as the remake review. I'll have to ask him, and if he says in this format, that will be my next review series. And like the remake review, the San Andreas review. I also want to do this format with the Wrath of Cortex and Sonic Heroes, because I don't think my minute reviews videos on those games were very fair, and they were just very rushed and lazy. So I want to do it for those two games, and then after that I don't know what I want to do it with. I might do it with Mario Odyssey, I could do it with Spider-Man PS4, I could do it with, oh bastard, I've lost my train of thought, what was I thinking of? I could do it with Sonic Unleashed. I could do it, there's a million games I could do a series like this on, and I'm thankful for that, because I love this formula so much. It's super fun to make, and it's just incredible. The reception on the series has been fantastic, probably some of the best reception that I've ever received on videos before, and I'm eternally grateful for it. So, for the last time, thank you all for watching the remake review. It's been a fantastic series, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it just as much as I have making it. Be sure to smash a like and let me know if you want more of this type of content in the future. There will be a channel announcement coming very soon, because it's going to be a very important announcement, so don't miss it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, thank you again, and peace out.